Hello and welcome to Talk from Superheroes. Hey everybody, I'm Andrew Ivemy.
And I'm Diana McCullum.
And you're listening to Talk from Superheroes, where every week we discuss a piece of heroic television or film. And this week on the podcast, we are talking about A Quiet Place Day 1.
Are we?
Mm-hmm.
Or is it A Quiet Place Part 3?
It depends regionally where you were, I believe.
Depend regionally. On my IMDb, it says A Quiet Place Part 3, bracket, original title, A Quiet Place Day 1.
Oh, okay. So they're bebopping and scatting all over the place.
They want it all.
They want it all.
They want to be known as whatever quiet place will get you into the theater.
Hey, they're like, hey, what are you going to buy a ticket for, guys? Please.
We got this.
Please.
We got that.
We're really worried about movies right now. Please, which one are you going to buy a ticket for?
A Quiet Place Bad Boys 4?
Is that what you want?
Is that what you want? Will Smith and Martin Short not talking? No, not Martin Short.
Yeah. No, that's the Quiet Place version. That's the Quiet Place version of the Bad Boys. In this one, it's Martin Short now.
Yeah, Martin Short has to be quiet.
Yes, and that's so tough because
that would be hard for him.
He vibrates with energy. Let me tell you, that's going to be a tough one for him.
You know what? It'd be fun to watch.
It would be a comedic bear.
Now I'm just pitching Quiet Places of the most not shut-upable actors out there.
Ah, okay. Yeah, a comedic Quiet Place as well, I think would be just a fun little jaunt. So we're talking about A Quiet Place Day 1 on today's episode of the podcast. This is a new movie. It just came out. As we do anytime that we talk about a new property, we like to give you a spoiler-free review in case you want a taste of the episode before you go out and see it or not, depending on what we say and how you're feeling. So we're going to give you a spoiler-free review. Then once you hear the theme music, we will enter the spoiler-filled section. So let's start with the spoiler-free review, the usual, the simple question. Diana, did you like it?
I did really like it. This is quite a high, near a love for me. I don't think it's quite as good as Quiet Place 1, but it's good in a different way, and I think it's a really interesting movie. The word I've been thinking that I think describes this movie the most is lovely. I think this is a lovely movie, which is a weird thing to say about a monster horror film, but I do think the movie is lovely. I think it overcomes a huge obstacle of being a prequel. Because for a prequel, especially when it's a prequel that's right before a famous event, or even at the same time, because Quiet Place 2 also has part of Day 1 just in a different city. So there's not a lot to mine of we'll figure out new ways to stop the monsters, or here's new things to learn. It's no, we know there's this frequency that kills them. We know they don't like water. There's not things you can learn. So instead what they did was they're well, what if within the monster attack, we just told a beautiful story about humanity? And I'm I love this. I think this is the right way to go in the third of a franchise where you don't really have a lot more to mine with the monsters. I think Lupita Nyong'o is so good. Joseph Quinn's also good, but she's so good. The monster parts are scary. This is it's going to sound like a weird commercial for IMAX, but seeing it in IMAX fucking ruled. The whole place shook when some of the monster stuff happened. I just think it was really, really tense, beautiful, a little heart-wrenching. It wasn't really scary. I never was too worried because you kind of tell where it was all going pretty much from the beginning. But I think it's a very well-made movie that I super enjoyed. And I really liked. And I was it's way better than I expected for the third installment of a horror franchise, let me just say. So yeah, a really high like for me for The Quiet Place Part 2, Part 3, or Day 1, whatever you want to call it. Andrew, did you like it?
I quite liked it. I'm a high like. Didn't quite elevate to a love. But this is very good. I would say the strongest thing that I can say about this movie is, yes, Lupita Nyong'o is giving a phenomenal performance. And on top of that, her character's story arc is just beautiful. I agree with you. Beautiful is a great way to describe it. Lovely, sorry.
I'll take beautiful.
A synonym, but no, I'll get with you on the lovely train. It is a lovely story. It's a wonderful little character piece. It's very well performed. It really works. Every character that isn't her is just kind of in the way of her lovely story. And I feel like that's what kind of holds back this movie a little bit, where there's a few other things going on. And I'm this isn't the lovely story. Everything else is and I don't know, what about some other person, a traditional horror movie? And I'm that's not what you're doing right now. Mm-hmm. Focus on the lovely. So I find that the other components of this movie are a distraction from a very beautiful character piece and a very wonderful performance from Lupita. it's just really good. But some of the other things are distracting. And I agree with you. It was tense, but I was never scared. But there was a well done creation of tension for a lot of the movie.
Yeah, I would agree with most of that. Yeah, I think also like I don't feel like this is a spoiler. Like I agree with what you say about like I don't think characters get in her way, but I don't think they're utilized properly. Like Joseph Quinn appears very late. I will just throw that out there. Like, don't worry, he is in it. But I was like looking at my watch. I'm like, wasn't he on the poster? Who the fuck is this guy? So maybe that is a bit of a spoiler. But just so you're not like me, like I'm here for. Or maybe if you were here for Joseph Quinn, if you're a big Stranger Things fan, he's coming.
Yeah,
he's gonna be there.
Yeah,
but yeah, he maybe shows up a little late.
I agree. I think that's kind of late and in the way, and we'll get into some of the other things as well. But I really do think that like this movie is a breezy hour 40, which I really appreciate. But the core of it is almost like just a short story of one person's journey that could have been done completely alone, I think. And some of the other characters just are some of the other elements are in the way. But it's very good. It's very good.
Yes, and I would also say I think it's a beautiful story that like it absolutely works in the Quiet Place franchise, but doesn't even necessarily need to be the Quiet Place franchise.
Oh, like yeah, you could
just put it in any apocalypse-y kind of thing. But
you could sub this into a Walking Dead or a Last of Us episode or anything like that, and it would all work kind of equally. I think. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But yeah, beautiful movie.
Yeah,
lovely.
Yeah.
Well, two great words to describe it.
Yeah, beautiful, and lovely. Yeah, it's a story less about the Quiet Place and more just about a character's journey. Mm-hmm. Just one person's journey for a want. And can it be spoiled?
Yeah, I guess I could say it could be spoiled. I mean, it didn't end exactly how I thought it would, but it ended 90% of how I thought it would. So, pretty minimal.
Yeah, I would agree. Pretty minimal spoilers. It's a
horror movie.
It is people a horror/thriller movie. Some people will die. Others will go on a journey trying to save some. Some will be saved. Others won't. It's kind of what you expect. I don't think there's anything here that really hinges on true shock and awe or surprise of the audience. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it can't be spoiled, and it's beautiful and lovely.
Beautiful and lovely, and you liked it, I think, a little bit more than me.
That's totally fine.
And that's totally fine. But let's get into the spoiler-filled section of the episode. Let's talk more about A Quiet Place, Day 1.
Part 3.
Part 3. Part 3. Day 1. Part 3. All right, so we have seen it. I could tell while we were watching it that you were quite moved.
I was really moved. I do disagree that I don't think it works singularly. Because I do think this is about Lupita Nyong'o's character, like, reconnecting with humanity and finding life. And, like, I just don't think you can do that without a guy who's, like, making sacrifices for her and, like, trying to find fentanyl for her and helping her get to her end point.
Oh, I did in no way took that theme from it.
Oh.
I think that this is about her just being like, no, I am on my journey. I am not re-accepting anyone into my life or humanity. You are someone who is in my way. And eventually I begrudgingly am like, that's tolerable if you're not too annoying sometimes, but go away. And he does. I really do think that it is just like her journey of saying goodbye to this earth.
Oh, I mean, it is that as well, but like, and like she does want him to go away, but eventually they bond, and she even says in the little note she leaves in the sweater, like you made me feel alive again, and like I was connected to humanity.
Okay.
Like you gave me a last connection to humanity.
Okay.
So yeah, I just don't think that I don't think that works without another person. Maybe just her and the cat. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, we can talk about the cat.
I mean, yeah, we'll talk about the cat too. I also am not super into the cat. I'm like, I just like this as just one person's quiet journey to get one last thing before they die. And I think that that's kind of beautiful because she plays a terminally ill patient who has very little time left when the incident of the Quiet Place, when like the arrival of these creatures kind of begins. And she's just trying to get uptown to get a slice of pizza that she really likes, which was her plan of the thing to do before she dies. So the monsters emotionally are largely irrelevant to her because she's not trying to survive the monster apocalypse. She is simply trying to die with the last thing that she wanted to die with, which is a slice of pizza. And I think that that's really beautiful and cool to be like, this is an apocalypse story about someone who is in no way trying to survive it. And it's just her kind of laying out her swan song and saying goodbye in the way that she wanted to say goodbye. And I think that that's really beautiful and kind of unique.
I do agree with that. And it is that's what I meant earlier in the spoiler free, where I was like, this is such a interesting place to take it in a third one where you can't like explore the lore more. Like you're going to explore people's stories. And this is such an interesting story. I agree. Especially like when you get things like, you know, she knows she won't survive past. Like she's barely holding on right now. So of course this is her swan song. She's like, I'm going to get this piece of pizza before I die and then it's over. And that's like a beautiful story and a great goal to have in a story like this. But I love little things like when she tells her nurse friend, like, I'm going to get pizza. And he doesn't try to talk her out of it because, like, you can, like, at first he, like, is confused. But after a minute, he's kind of just like, yeah, fair enough. Like, he's like, yeah, what else is there to do?
Yeah.
We're not getting back to the hospice. You weren't going to get cured anyway. It doesn't seem you're terminally ill. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's this, yeah, it's like, I'm going to get way too deep into it and be like, you know, the monsters are a metaphor for the cancer trying to stop her. And she has to overcome both things to get this pizza that she wants. Yeah. And she does it, and she totally succeeds. But she only succeeds with the help of Joseph Quinn, which is what I think the humanity story part is, and connecting to humanity and helping each other.
Interesting. Yeah, I think that she I don't know. I felt zero towards Joseph Quinn's character or anything. If anything, I was like, and it really, at the end of the movie, honest to God, what I felt was I was like, I'm really glad you got where you wanted to go and you had a pretend pizza. And it really sucks that this guy was here for your special moment.
Oh, no!
I sincerely felt that I was like, you wanted to have a quiet moment of solace before you died. And you're someone who enjoyed being alone. And this man, this needy, clingy, terrible man has robbed you of it. And I'm so sorry you had to put up with him. That was how I felt about it by the end of the movie. Thematically, I think that Joseph Quinn actually does like a really good job of this character who is kind of underwritten. And I'm just like, I don't really know what the fuck he shows up so late. I don't know what your motivations are. The character is underwritten, but Joseph Quinn does a really good job of the performance. But there was just something about me relating to her character that I was like, yeah, she kind of wants to be alone right now. And this movie is about like, sometimes you don't even get what you want in that last moment, huh? It sucks that he's here. I really thought that was how I felt watching that scene.
That's hilarious, because I don't think that's what it was at all. But like, I get what you're saying, though. I get that reading of it. But my reading of it was very much like she was happy to connect again with someone. It was nice not to be completely alone, to be able to have someone look after her cat.
Yeah.
But you're right that she did really like get rid of him. Like she had no interest on getting on that boat. And then like, I was really surprised and happy that she just got to die how she chose and didn't just get like mauled by monsters in that final boat sequence. That she got to go back to Patsy's and like choose the music to like bring the monsters to kill her. I really glad she got that moment. That was a really nice, like, she did get to choose how she went, and it was alone, like you said.
Yeah.
But I just don't know if she like really wanted to be alone, or if like her illness had made her start pushing people away. Like, we don't know what she was like before she got sick.
Yeah, that is true. We do not necessarily know that side of the character as well. Yeah.
Because I really liked this movie, and I looked too much into it, because the pizza thing to me is also part of like connecting with others, because pizza is such a community food. Pizza is like, you can enjoy a pizza alone, but pizza is very much a like, we're all going to sit around and enjoy a pizza.
Right.
That's not like to me, that's not an end of life. I want a pizza by myself. Like my end of life thing I want to eat by myself is not pizza.
Oh, but it's like the memory of the times with her dad was kind of how I read it. To be like, I want to be alone and have a slice of pizza and think about the memory of being a kid and me with my dad. And it's not about me. Yeah, so I took it as the opposite there, but I see what you're saying, that it is a communal food, and obviously it is a community memory that she has as well, so I can see that. Yeah,
a familial one. But yeah, he definitely could have been introduced sooner. Maybe he like just should have been the nurse from the place, like someone she actually had a connection with and who had been reaching out with her the whole time. But I agree, Joseph Quinn did a really good job.
He does a really good job of this kind of weird little character.
Weird little character, but yeah, the replacement of the nurse character being replaced with Joseph Quinn halfway through was very like, okay, it just kind of felt one for one.
Yeah. It felt like they were filming this movie live.
What does that mean?
Like it feels like because like Alex Wolff, who plays the nurse character, had like had a fair amount of like heat as well. Has been in some other big name projects.
What else has he been in?
And it was just I honestly can't recall right now, but I know that he has like a little bit of Hollywood heat, and it was like halfway through filming this, Joseph Quinn finished Stranger Things and got Fantastic Four, and they were like, get that other boy out, get the new hot Hollywood boy in. It honestly feels like it was just like someone got that, like the nurse character played by Alex Wolff got like just hooked off stage and replaced with the new hot actor
just in
of
real
the moment
time.
in real time. And I'm like, I know that that's not how films are shot and made, but that's how it feels, because I'm like, there's no plot motivation for this other than getting a new, slightly more ticket selling actor in the film as soon as possible.
How many hot ticket boys can we fit into A Quiet Place Part 3? Considering the title, there should have been at least 3, but we only had 2. But yeah, I agree. It does feel like that. It feels very much like spoilers for the most recent Mission Impossible. We're going to kill the girl from the last movie because now Haley Atwell's here. It's like one in, one out. You can't have both. We're going to have as many hot people in this as we can. And it doesn't matter if it's best for the story?
Huh?
No, I completely agree. Because yes, funny story. I think the timing's not quite right. Because you're right, he did finish Stranger Things when he was doing this, but then he hadn't been cast in Fantastic Four yet when like the trailers and the posters for this came out. But he got cast in it like a week later, and they like photoshopped him in because the original posters were just Lupita Nyong'o. They were like, it's a Lupita Nyong'o powerhouse. And then a week later, he got cast. They were like, here's some new posters that also have Johnny Storm from the Fantastic Four.
And he's photoshopped in there. And
he's clearly not in this shot.
And he's clearly not. His color palette does not match her or the poster.
Not in any
he
way.
is just dropped in.
He is dropped in to the point where, because he showed up so late, I was like, is this one of those things where he's only going to have like 5 minutes of screen time, but he got hot really quick and they dropped him in to the poster? Like there was this movie like Knockaround Guys that Vin Diesel was in before he did Fast and Furious and Triple X.
Yeah.
And then like they like shelved it because it was so bad. But then those movies came out like, we have a Vin Diesel movie. He's like the 6th lead in it. He's so far down. And then it's like him on the poster. He's the star of it.
You used to see that a lot back in the like Blockbuster video store days of like the DVD cover would have changed.
The movie,
it'd be like when it was in theaters, this was not the poster for the movie, but some fourth build actor, it'd be like Chris Pine has blown up and he's like the fourth build person in a movie.
Jennifer Aniston is the first kill in Leprechaun.
And
the posters for the Leprechaun movie on DVDs now are just her.
That's great. That's great.
No other characters. Yeah. I don't know who else is in Leprechaun, but I know she's not in it very much.
Yeah. So it felt like that kind of a move, I'm going to say.
It's just a thing you don't see anymore.
Yeah, you just don't see it too much.
It's just a thing you don't see where they change the promotional materials as actors they hired get bigger.
Yeah.
It's refreshing. It feels old-timey.
It does feel a little bit old-timey. Yeah. Yeah, so he's just kind of showing up to him. And if you want someone who's got some heat, I did like the little bit of him. A classic Djimon Hounsou pop-in.
Mwah, 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 mwah. Yeah, really glad to see this tie into part 2 that Djimon Hounsou is just like, and I was there. And I'm like, and I love whenever you're there, man.
Hell yeah. Anytime he pops in, it's like, oh, what a breath of fresh air. Hounsou's here.
He just makes me feel safe and warm and nice. I was like, I would like to survive the Quiet Place with you. Like when he wants to pull him up into the boat and he tells the boat to stop. I'm just like, yes, Johnson.
He makes me feel good.
He makes me feel good. And it's weird to say put him in more movies because he's in so many movies. He's everywhere.
He is absolutely fucking everywhere. But as this like fifth build.
Never a lead. What's up with that?
Yeah. Give this man the reins to more stuff because he is good. But yeah, like makes me feel good, is fun to see, great and charismatic, a nice little like plant of a character. And as like he sells the intensity as well when he has to kill that man who's screaming about being left behind. That's really like an intense and powerful scene, and probably one of like the darkest and kind of more conflicting things about the movie. This is, I would say, like a scene that feels like it's from the other two movies, where like it's not a part of a lovely journey. It is part of the dark reality of the world that we live in. But he sells that really well in that moment.
Yeah, that moment is kind of, it's the darker side of humanity, but it's not the darker side of humanity because it's a very like needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. This guy screams, everyone in the theater dies. Like, you got to do something. So, but like, it's such an intent, like his son's watching, he really sells the horror of it, but also the clear intention of it. Like, I don't want to hurt this guy, but like my kid's right there. I have to save him. And it really brings up, like, again, when we talked about too, what an interesting apocalypse The Quiet Place is.
Yeah.
Where like you all have to trust each other if you are multiple survivors, but also if you see anyone who's survived for even a little while, you have to be like, well, they know the rules.
Yeah.
They figured it out. Like, not like a couple hours in like this guy, but like even after a day, anyone who's still alive, you can just see them. You're like, well, they're not going to make a sound. They know.
Yeah.
It's a weird kind of like ability to trust people in this apocalypse.
I think so. Yeah.
That is just so interesting to me that because this one is very different because it's the first one where there's just people everywhere. Like at one point they like leave the sewer system and they go up into a church and the church is just full of people who have survived and are praying, and we don't meet any of them and we don't interact with them because they're not part of this story and they're just being quiet in a corner. And that's just such an, like, you don't see that in apocalypse movies like this. Usually you run into someone, you got to be like, are you trustworthy? Do you have guns? Do you have food? Do you know what to do?
In the church scene, I wasn't even sure if they were corpses as well, because
none
none of them physically moved.
None of them even looked when they came up out of a sewer, which does feel like you'd at least be like, shh, in that sewer.
I'm not sure I'm not sure what I was supposed to get out of that. If they were all dead or if they were all just being quiet and not drawing attention.
I don't know how they would have died just in prayer positions, because that's not how these guys kill.
A couple of them I could see were like people who were like crushed by pillars because part of the roof had caved in.
That's fair.
So some of them were like half crushed from the legs.
And you can bring like survivors in that die, but also a few of them were just in prayer position.
Yeah, I do agree with that. Yeah, so it seems like they were just not doing anything, or I don't know, but yeah, it was cool. I agree. Yeah, I agree that like it is, you have to kind of trust people a little bit. I do think that many people in New York figured it all out a little too quick. I am going to say that actually no one is figuring this out for 2 to 3 days. It's just a murder fest.
It's just a murder fest. I would agree. Because, like, as much as these things kill very quickly, there's so many people in New York that, like, they're not going to get through everyone. It is going to take you a minute to realize quietness. And there's also a continuity error, because in the first movie, there's, like, a New York Post newspaper that's like, it's sound. And they figured it out. And I'm like, no printing press.
No printing press is running in this.
If you get killed instantly for every sound an hour in, no printing press.
No printing press.
Unless you got one of those crazy silent printers.
Or like you printed it and it was like you see the meteors come down or whatever, and it's like they blow up the bridges, and it's like, did you print this? Maybe not in Manhattan. Were they not across in the other boroughs? But there were multiple ones that came down. I don't know. Maybe you printed it somewhere else.
The Quiet Place is a small town, and they got like 5 or 6.
Yeah. I don't know.
But yeah, so I don't think the printing press happened. But I agree that like there's one point where the like helicopter goes and they make the big announcement. They're like, go south to the boats, and everyone starts coming out of the buildings, and I'm like, this many people are alive? This is way too many people that that figured out the quietness.
Yeah, and I understand some people figuring it out just by just by shock. Like you actually stop making sound. Like some people will stop making sound because they've gone into absolute shock and abject terror. But figuring out that that's why, and then leaving the buildings and not saying things to other people to be like, are we going south? Like immediately some idiot's going to fuck this up. A sneeze, a cough, something. And like it does get fucked up, granted. But yeah, I think people understood the assignment a little too fast.
They did understand it pretty fast. Like Lupita, like I think this doesn't help you understand it, but it's very understandable to survive because you got knocked out for a few hours. you're not making any sound when you're unconscious.
True.
So that's a good way to be like, the crowd really got sliced through while she was just unconscious on the ground, and that kind of dwindles down the numbers.
Yeah.
But it doesn't help you figure out that it's sound, because no one tries to hide in the shadows. They're not like, maybe it's sound and sight. Like no one thinks
there's
it
not
might
enough
be sight.
scientific evidence, because if you're unconscious and you're not killed, you didn't make any sound or movement. She doesn't wake up and it's like a T-Rex. Just don't move. No one tries that. No one tries anything else.
Yeah, I agree, because it felt like the scene in Jurassic Park where you don't make any sound, you don't move, and they're like, turn the light off.
Yeah.
Like, what if it's light? What if it's...
But there are scientists who know in that scenario in Jurassic Park.
They have studied a T-Rex.
They've
That's
studied
fair.
them extensively, so they know what's going on. But yeah, a lot of people get on board too quickly. I'm like, over the course of a year, we weren't able to convince everyone that masks were what stopped airborne disease, airborne infections. And so it's like, I don't think this many people are like, it's sound. We're all going to be quiet. We have all internalized this information in a normal and healthy way, and we've all, through observation and scientific method, figured out that it's sound.
Now, but I will say, I think people wouldn't have been so hesitant on masks if the second you took one off, you died.
Yeah.
There is a very much
immediacy.
immediacy of the make a sound, see someone die. But it's also like, no one's like, it's weird, the lack of communication. Like, they just like shush each other, and no one's like, I got a notepad and I'm writing things, and it's like, it's sound, be quiet. Like,
yeah,
it is kind of a weird lack of information. Like, we all, like, no one was typing on their phone and just holding it up to each other, which is what I would do until my phone died.
Oh yeah, because at this point, your phone is still working. Yeah, that's a great point.
Your phone's not going to die for a day.
Yeah, people could have been doing that.
But whatever. She wrote like 3 things in her notepad.
Yeah. Yeah, she wrote 3 things in the notepad, and we found more excuses to have whisper dialogue through a lot more rain. The thunder thing, like having a thunderstorm come in, I was like, that's a pretty cool idea for a reason that you can kind of get away with stuff. That's a great way of bringing in that piece of lore that they built in the previous movies.
Yeah, it was a really good like set piece of why they can talk, and then that conversation was like just really good, like screaming in time with the thunder.
Yeah.
Because the rain will cover up dialogue, but then like if you want to make any more noise, you have to wait for the thunder, and they're both just like screaming, and the thunder was a really beautiful moment.
Yeah.
But yeah, they definitely, well, it rained twice because I guess they needed 2 scenes with dialogue, and
then we also had the water fountain scene, and then we had so a lot of they might have gone to that well a little too often, but the thunderstorm night was really nice. The strategist in me was a little bit furious to be like, don't sleep during the thunderstorm. Move. This is when you get done. Sleep tomorrow when the daylight is out, because you don't make noise, and you just go. Start booking it full speed. Oh yeah, they could
have got to Patsy's that night.
Yeah. Cover extra ground tonight. Tonight's the night. So the strategist in me was furious, but it was a good emotional scene. The only small thing that I was like, no, she didn't, was when he was reading her book of poetry, and it was a book of poetry where she was just like, they tell me I have 6 months, it's been 6. They told me I have 2 years, it's been 2. And she's like, I went to New York Central School or some made up school or whatever, and she was like, so I can do my basic maths. And he said maths, and I'm like, you're British, but she isn't. She didn't
write maths.
She didn't write down maths. Americans don't pluralize maths. And I don't know why that bothered me so much, that I'm like, someone writing British dialogue wrote your dialogue, but forgot in this scene that he's reading an American's poems. She didn't write maths, plural. She wrote math. Americans study math.
I completely agree, and that bothered me because it meant they either just made a huge, weird mistake in the dialogue, or Joseph Quinn's character was just an asshole who read her poem the way he would have written it.
Yeah.
This should be maths, by the way. I'm
just saying
not going to tell you how to do your poetry, but there's an S.
It's maths.
It's maths. I completely agree. That also bothered me. It was a weird little. It took me out of it. It completely took me out of it.
I should not have gotten as hung up on that as I did, but I was like, why the fuck did you say math? I really didn't like that he said maths. Yeah.
I can get behind that. Here's the thing that bothered me. If we're on little tiny things that bothered me, and also no, she didn't.
Hit me with your foibles.
My foibles. Joseph Quinn maybe you could carry some of her stuff. This woman is carrying a grocery bag full of stuff from a Quickie Mart, like some Gatorade and some cat food. She's also carrying her cat. She has cancer and is dying. Joseph Quinn is carrying nothing.
He's still wearing his fucking tie. And it's like the third, it wasn't until the third day he takes off the tie.
No briefcase, no provisions, not even like a weapon to maybe fight a monster, like to protect them if they show up. He's just like, no, this lady who's dying and can barely stand can carry her own food, water, and cat. The whole movie. And I get maybe she doesn't want to give up the cat right away because he does, but you can carry the food. There's food everywhere.
Yeah.
This isn't a foodless apocalypse. It's day one. I was furious.
Carry some food, dude.
I was so mad.
Do something. Do something. And just like, let's zone in on him for a second.
Okay.
What is this character? Because he's giving a great performance, and I feel like he has just decided a different thing that this character is. Because like we first meet him, it's halfway through the movie, and he just kind of pops up out of like a flooded subway. And I guess maybe like when monsters were going by, he dove underwater, or he was in the subway and just swam out. We don't really know what his backstory was. We don't get the first act of whatever the fuck he's been doing. And he just pops out.
He's A Quiet Place day 1.5.
Yeah.
And it's not day one.
And then Alone's a little weird, but it's like, okay. And he comes up out of the water, gasping for air. And the cat is there. The cat, who is a character of this movie, Lupita Nyong'o's character is carrying a cat with her. It's her support cat the entire movie. And the cat's there when Joseph Quinn pops up out of the water. And there's just these long, lingering looks. And it actually reached a point where, like, they were showing the cat enough in these kind of implying importance ways where I'm like, is this like a French New Wave film and cat is God? Like, there were a few moments where it was like, he's following the cat to her and that brought them together. And then it's like the cat's the one who orchestrated everything. I'm like, we've actually gone too weird with what we're doing with this cat and his relationship to it. And then he finds Lupita Nyong'o's character and he's like, well, I'm in business school. It wasn't supposed to be like that. I'll follow you to pizza. Here's a magic trick. And I'm like, how are those three things related? I don't understand how he is someone who went from, I almost drowned, I saw a cat, I think the movie's telling me that I think that the cat's telling me something because the cat's God or a metaphor for it who has brought us together for me to go with you on your journey. And also I know magic. I really have no idea how any of these aspects of his personality are meant to be connected in any way.
They really, really aren't. It is actually impressive thinking back on what a good performance he gives for such a disconnected character that we know nothing about. It feels like he also had a first half of this movie that just got cut. Like, just popping up out of a subway is so like, well, something interesting just happened. That's not like he was just cowering in a corner and didn't know what to do. It's like, well, what was that all about? Like, how did the subway flood? Why was he down there? Like, so many questions. But I agree that none of his character traits go together. Like, the first one that's introduced is that he doesn't have any family because he came here to study school. I'm like, well, that actually does make sense of why you would, like, latch on to somebody.
Yeah, that's something.
If you don't have anybody.
That's something.
The business school doesn't matter. The magic comes out of nowhere. Like, is there a deleted scene where you talk about magic when you could talk at the apartment? And it is hard to develop your character traits when you can't have very much dialogue. But, like, magic can't just appear. Yeah. You have to establish that you have an interest in magic. You have to be like, I don't know, I couldn't decide between business school and magic school or some bullshit like that.
I wasn't even supposed to be here. I was supposed to go to magic school, but I didn't want to disappoint my parents or something.
Or like, I took a day off from my business job to go to Magic Con and oh, fuck, the monsters appear. Something to explain why you just suddenly Barney Stinstoned at the end of this movie and you were like, got pizza and beer and magic. And I'm like, now I just feel like you're a Barney Stinson pickup artist.
Yeah.
So I agree none of his character traits go together. And the cat thing is so weird.
The cat thing is weird.
He really does feel like a mystical character at that point. And from that point on.
They have made the cat a mystical character.
And I would understand it kind of if it was not day one, if we were in a like later Quiet Place movie and you can't find other survivors and the cat was like, hey, I found someone. Right. And was trying to get help to Lupita. But there's people everywhere.
Yeah, so they've
There are-
made the cat just mystical.
Yeah, the cat's
it
just
brings
like-
you to where you need to be in life at any given moment, or if you need it, it is with you. It is either with you or leading you, depending on what is needed, and it just makes it seem like a mystical cat.
Yeah, I felt like I was watching you play the game Strays every now and then.
Oh, yeah,
Or
yeah,
just
yeah.
Stray? I don't know if
Stray.
there was an
I think,
S.
I think it was just Stray. Yeah, I think it was
Maths?
singular.
Is it math or maths? Stray or Strays?
Stray or Stray? Cute cat.
Really cute cat. And
We're not even like huge cat people, but I'm like, this is a top tier cat. I will. Well, actually, you were gonna say something. Go ahead on the cat.
Oh no, I think the cat's cute. I like that it liked head kisses. Some cats don't like that. Liked being held. I was just about to say the exact same thing as you. We're dog people. We don't dislike cats, but I was like,
That's a particularly good cat.
this is a good cat. And I think there's some
Much like Joseph Quinn, I'm like, I love this cat's performance, but the writing motivation's a little all over the place.
The cat went up to the director and he was like, "Wait a minute, I don't
Wait,
want to play mystical cat."
Am I the mystical cat?
Again? I would like to have some character, some agency.
Yeah.
I think it's a dated stereotype, sir.
Not all cats are mystics. I actually am a cat of science.
I figured out the sound thing. I was trying to relay a message.
I would love that so much. I am also going to say this, that loving your pet and animal and your companion is very important, very relatable. Couldn't relate to it more, of her being like, I've got to go grab my cat. I am going to say that grabbing your cat in this scenario is a disservice to it. That cat's survival rate is so much higher without you around. They are particularly quiet animals, except for when they're knocking shit off of tables. But they're small and wily and can get away. There's a point when like one of the monsters is like chasing her and she's got the cat in a bag. And I'm like, let the cat leave. You are dooming this cat with your loud ass human body. Let the cat's way safer without you. And when Joseph Quinn's like, I've got to climb loudly up this beam to get the cat back, I'm like, just wait. It's apparently mystical. It will come back and it can climb beams quieter than you can.
It doesn't want your help, Joseph Quinn.
Yeah. It's trying to create some distance so you don't kill it.
It's chosen its path. Yes, I completely agree. Because I was going to say, I think that it's actually very interesting to have a cat companion in this apocalypse because cats are so quiet. Like, you don't need the kitten mittens. That's why that joke is funny.
Yeah.
They're already silent as hell unless they're meowing for food. But, like, they're not going to do that when they're hunting. And yes, in this scenario, if my cat ran away, I'd be like, it is going to do better than me.
Good luck.
Good luck. Best of luck to you. There's tons of rats. It's New York. You're going to be just fine. You're better off than me. And I agree. Yeah, carrying her around. Because, like, if the cat's off leash and wants to stay with you, excellent.
That's cool,
Do
too.
not force this cat to do a goddamn thing. You're holding it back. You're killing this cat.
Yeah, you're doing bad on this cat.
The cat doesn't need to know that it has to be quiet. They're just quiet.
They're just pretty quiet. They'll purr and meow every now and then. And if they did and a thing came, they can get into some pretty little spaces that these other creatures can't. They can move quicker and through smaller spaces. They are going to have a higher survival rate than humans. I'm not saying all cats are getting away, but I'm saying that their survival rate's much higher than humans in this scenario.
It's absolutely going to be way higher. Because I will say, here's a positive. I do like the competency of this movie because I think a couple characters have done this where they make a sound and then they just stand there and die. But this movie is very much like you make a sound, you run away from the sound because the monster's just coming straight for the sound. I also like the use of car alarms over and over again to be like sound far away. Very, very smart. I love a competent character. So this was very sexy to me whenever they would use car alarms to draw monsters away.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, they're very smart with how they go about things. Like it's that leap of logic of like everyone figured out sound really quickly is hard to buy, but once you accept that buy-in, everyone is living in a very competent world where like, yeah, they just got to that competency a little quicker than I think I kind of understand, but I do like that. And using car alarms.
They've all seen the first two movies somehow.
Yeah. Yeah, they know that they're a prequel that can reference all of the things we learned through two movies.
It's like when you watch a zombie movie that has zombie movies.
Yeah.
And the characters are like, oh shit, zombies.
We know what to destroy the brain. Like, yeah.
It feels like that. Oh shit, the sound monsters from A Quiet Place. Felt like that.
I do have just on a general goof note, just on kind of a general picking apart, just for the sake of having fun. I am trying to understand what these creatures want.
They're not eating.
They're not really eating, and like I just don't understand. Not that I need to, but I'm like, if we're applying science to these creatures, if within hours someone is like, they hear by sound, and this is what their motivation is, and I'm like, but are they eating? Are they hunting? Do they hate us? Because it's like all known creatures, and I get that this is an unknown creature, but all known creatures are either hunting for territory, safety, or food. And these seem to be doing neither. They just seem to be pure hate monsters, which is a kind of a way to do it. But if we're trying to like apply science and being like, we've scienced these creatures, and it's like, well, what are these things? And at one point when Joseph Quinn goes to get the cat from that area, and I'm like, okay, these are like mushroom spores. Are these eggs they laid? And they seem to be eating those, and they call each other over.
And they were like webby and weird looking. Yeah, it wasn't just like humans. It was like food they'd made.
I think maybe that was a crater impact from either the meteor or whatever. But I'm like, so this is what they eat. I didn't know what lore that was trying to tell us. I'm like, what are these things? What are these things?
Couldn't agree more. Because I don't really need to know what these things are, to be totally honest. From 3 movies and the way that they kill you so quickly and don't try to eat you, I think they're probably like a manufactured force meant to destroy humans without destroying the planet. A kind of resource saving destruction.
Okay.
Oh, you're going to wipe out the native inhabitants, but like the water's going to be clean, the trees will still exist.
A human-seeking missile that has been dropped onto this planet.
That's what I think they are to me.
Okay.
That's what, in my heart,
yeah,
that's what I think the monsters are. But that scene with Joseph Quinn is so out of place because that is a scene that most monster movies have, where somebody sees the monsters do something interesting or like that no one else sees.
They have special spore eggs that they feed off of.
Yeah, and they figure it out, and they're like, that's how we'll destroy them, or that's how we'll survive. Usually
that's how we'll distract them. Or
that is 100% what that scene always is in every horror or sci-fi movie. And in this movie, it was just, we needed 5 more minutes of Joseph Quinn, and then he grabbed the cat. And I was like, he never brings this up. He learns no discernible information. He just risked his life going into a den of monsters to save a cat who didn't need his help. And I was very confused about the lack of useful information. I'm like, is this going to come up in A Quiet Place 4? Are we setting up for a sequel right now?
It felt like, yeah, because it is that scene. It's that scene
where you learn like, oh, this is how face huggers work or something. Or like, oh, the queen is here. If we blow up the queen, it'll kill them all. Like
it's Chekhov's monster information.
It's absolutely that scene, except Chekhov didn't shoot anyone with that gun.
Yeah, it'd be like if the scene in Pitch Black when Vin Diesel finds like the skeleton of the creature, just looking at it, is like they have a blind spot directly in front of them. Huh, weird. And then just never use that for the rest of the movie?
Thank you for coming up with an example, because there's so many and I'm blanking.
Yeah.
Yes, that's a perfect example.
Anyway, I'm going to punch them from the side for the rest of the movie. Like, well, why would we establish this new lore kind of info?
Yeah, or if at the end of A Quiet Place 1, when they figured out the frequency, they were like, weird. Let's not use that again.
Weird. Oh.
Or like, he just found out some information, didn't share it. Didn't need it.
Didn't mean anything. Even I, as an audience member, could not discern what they were trying to tell me.
We have watched all 3 movies back to back, so I think we know these movies as well as any casual viewer. And obviously we're both like, no idea what's going on there, bro. Don't know what's up with that.
And I will say that this movie is good because of Lupita Nyong'o's performance and her character's journey, and all of the writing around that is really good. I, within seconds of this movie, was like, oh no, this movie's going to be horrid, was my immediate instinct, because it opens with text on the screen that is some of the dumbest, most audience-insulting things I have ever seen in the history of movies.
I don't remember what it said, so I'm so excited.
I am paraphrasing. I don't have the exact quote in front of me, but it comes up. It says, like, New York City is one of the loudest cities on the planet. It makes an average of 90 decibels. That's the same volume as a human scream. And then the movie starts, and I'm like, what information did this just convey? Literally, it is just conveying to us, hey, New York is a city. Cities are loud. Loudness is a measurement of sound. That's the information they felt the need to put on the screen beforehand. Some movies put information on the screen beforehand like the planet Arrakis is where spice is mined. This movie felt the need to tell me that New York City is a city and that cities are louder than other places, and sound is a measurement of loudness. And I'm like, these are, if anyone somehow managed to make it into a movie theater to see A Quiet Place Part 1 and was like, what's New York? That person is dead. They are a time traveler. They're having a heart attack in seconds. Why is this information? You have wasted our time and insulted our intelligence sharing. It's just, it is a top 10 dumbest opening crawl I've ever seen.
I didn't hate it. Now that you brought it up. Now that you've reminded me of it, I think it's poetic. Although I don't think it quite fits what the movie's doing. Like, no, it doesn't. No, like New York saying New York is constantly screaming is kind of like saying like, this city is painful. But then you have a beautiful story about how New York's great. It's got good pizza and like people help each other. So that's kind of the opposite of a constant scream to me.
Yeah.
So it should be like, it's constantly like loud and helpful.
Or like the only thing I could think like lore-wise, are they trying to tell us this? Because in the first Quiet Place movie, there's 3 of them in that woods area. I think like John Krasinski had like counted it. He's tracking him, which is why I thought like they killed territorially, that like 3 stayed in the same area that long, that's why they attacked. Trying to think of them as an animal and a creature. I'm like, they're territorial rather than an attack monster. But in this opening text, I'm like, and since there's so many of them in New York, I'm like, did you hear New York from space? Are these ships and not asteroids? Like, did you, and also like, that's not how sound works. Sound doesn't make it through the vacuum of space.
I don't know if you know this. In space, no one can hear you scream.
Yeah.
Even if you're an entire city.
Yeah. So it's just like, well, did they direct their meteors/ships towards the loudest city because they don't like it?
I was gonna say, yeah, that's my other theory about these monsters is they just fucking hate sounds.
Yeah, they're just mad. They're trying to find a universe without. They're trying to find a planet without sound or something.
They're just overstimulated, and they're like me when I get cranky, and I'm like, Andrew, your keyboard's too loud, except to a huge extreme.
Yeah,
he's since replaced the keyboard. Thank you for your accommodation.
You are welcome. No mechanical keyboards here.
But yeah, it does feel like they just hate sound.
Yeah.
But it also feels like there's an interesting version of The Quiet Place here because that doesn't happen at all. Because like water covers up sound and you can talk. So to me, I think if the monsters hadn't landed like so many of them right in New York, to me that says that if New York isn't freaking out, the thrum of New York is loud enough to keep you alive.
It should be.
It should be like standing under the waterfall. Like if New York's just running at its normal paces, like cars are going, construction's happening, people are yelling, then it should be enough for the monsters not to be able to pinpoint a thing. And I think that would be a very interesting Quiet Place of like people slowly dying because the monsters are like, fuck, it's just everywhere.
They can't pinpoint anything because it's too much.
They can't stop this place. But that's not what it is at all. And that's what the opening crawl seems like it would want to say of like, it's kind of like being in a waterfall the whole time.
The opening crawl says 2 of the simplest, dumbest things that a human could say that makes the story harder to interpret somehow. We're to be like, is this lore about like, are they flying these ships and they hate New York? Or are you trying to tell me New York will be like a waterfall and we can't hear? There's multiple interpretations of this. The simplest, dumbest information that we could be given, which is that New York is a city and that cities are loud.
Yeah, and none of it is relevant to the monsters attacking or surviving them or doing any of that. I like the idea that it's the reason that so many of them landed there, though.
But that implies that these creatures then are sentient and targeted New York.
Oh, I think they're creatures created by other aliens who are up there.
Oh, okay.
I think they got like sent down.
But sound doesn't make it to space. Cities that have more like satellite dishes and radio arrays, which would make it to space, but human sound doesn't. But I don't know what they're doing up there.
I don't know what they're doing up there. I don't know what they're mad about.
Yeah. I don't know what they're mad about. They're mad about sound.
They're definitely mad about sound.
Yeah, I know that much.
Speaking of which, I'm going to go back to my compliment about the IMAX of this. I've really noticed a difference when we go to IMAX movies lately, or like maybe just this one. There's a moment where they're all...
You're noticing sound?
Yeah.
Whoa, this is a huge leap for you.
You know what? IMAX should sponsor this podcast. This is genuinely such a huge endorsement for me. Yes, I did notice sound, but not the sound you're thinking of. I love this moment where they're in the theater, and then like a helicopter goes by, like telling people instructions, and then like thousands of creatures are clearly all running towards the only sound, but they can't reach a helicopter, so it's clearly driving them insane. So they're all run towards it, and the place just shakes. Like all of New York is shaking from these monsters running by. It's maybe one of my favorite moments in the movie. I just thought it was really cool. I really felt it in my bones. You could feel like how many creatures were in New York in this moment. It's like, oh, it's not just like one landed near us. It's hundreds, if not thousands. And they're powerful, and they're so fast, and they're mad about sound.
I agree with you on that. I think the sound design is incredible. Yeah, IMAX definitely amps it up. I felt the same thing in those helicopter seeds. And yeah, the power and intensity of the herd.
The herd of them.
Yeah, it's something that neither of the other two Quiet Place movies did, because it wasn't really necessary, because one is frankly powerful enough to do anything. But when they have moments like the herd, there's like an ambulance and the herd hits it. And it's like, it's enough of them with enough force. It is Hulk throwing an ambulance across the street, and it's causing mass explosions. And there is that like, the creature has enough of a threat one-on-one, but adding a herd was kind of a new dynamic that did feel like a weight on my chest and actually did create quite a bit of tension, and I felt was very powerful.
Yeah, you felt very trapped by these creatures. Like even if you're going to be quiet, like it's like they're going to be everywhere.
Yeah.
There's no escaping, and also they blow up the bridges. Thanks, guys.
We
can't go escape into the woods like they do in the first movie.
Thanks for a classic Batman No Man's Land.
Everyone's seen all the media in this movie. Everyone's seen A Quiet Place. Yeah. Everyone's seen No Man's Land / Red No Man's Land.
Yeah. Even though the bridge thing, I guess, didn't work because it has made it other places. But
yeah, like that seemed really like a weird choice because clearly the monsters had landed lots of places.
If that was where maybe the biggest infection was, I could see being like, we got to write this off. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. All right. Well, let's go in for the close. Let's ask the final question of what would you change? So now that we've discussed everything we've discussed, what would you change about this if you could change anything? Before we do ask that final question, we will remind you, as we do every week, to please take a moment and rate, review, subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podcast Addict, wherever you might get your podcasts. It helps us rise up in the charts. It helps us find new listeners. It helps us grow as a podcast. And also, it's just really nice for us to see when we get a new review. We read it. It means something to us. And it's just very sweet of you to do.
It's just nice.
It's just nice.
We're just Marge Simpson with a potato. And we're like, we just think they're neat.
We just think reviews are neat.
We think they're great. And you know what? Every time I've left a podcast review, I felt like a really good person after. Yeah, makes you feel good.
It does make you feel good.
It's like the Djimon Hansu of things to do.
Just a nice pop in that makes you feel good. It's really good. So please take a moment to do it. And I know every podcast asks you to do this. So while you're there on your podcast provider of choice, do it for like 3 podcasts that you love, just to spread that love around. And if you do want to support the podcast monetarily, you can do that over on Patreon, which is a monthly subscription service. You can subscribe at whatever you can afford, whatever level is in your budget. You can do $1 a month, 5, 10, whatever you have going on.
You know how maths work.
You know how maths work, and
with,
you can
with the
yes, and you can always cancel or change your level at any given moment. So there are different options. At the $3 level, you get these episodes early and ad-free, so you can get them without ads, and you can get them a little bit early, which is really fun and cool, especially when we talk about new movies like this. And then as well, at the $10 level, you will get an exclusive bonus episode of this podcast every single month. So we have exclusives every single month. Last month, we did Bad Boys.
Super fun.
This month, for the July Patreon upcoming, we will be doing Twister.
We haven't recorded it yet, but guys, it's going to be super fun.
Twister, in anticipation of the release of Twisters. We'll be doing Twisters. Twister, Maths. Nice. So Twister will be our July Patreon exclusive. And if you sign up at the $10 hero level, you will get that episode. And you also get immediate access to the full back catalog as well.
The back catalog has so many bangers, you guys.
It is intensive.
If you need more Talking Superheroes, there's hundreds of episodes.
Yes.
Now?
Yes.
Hundreds of episodes. All ad free, so like we just get into it, and they're wildly fun. If I didn't record them, I'd subscribe.
Yeah.
I'd get it.
Yeah, they're high quality. They're where we bring some heat. We bring some heat on the Patreon
some
exclusives.
secret heat for the patrons only.
Yeah, so check it out at patreon.com/fromsuperheroes if it is in your budget. Also, if you just want to support us in the network, the $1 a month option gets you our webcomic early, and we love and appreciate anyone who can support us in any way, because Patreon and everyone who is our patrons are the reason we are able to run this full-time, make it our full-time jobs, and do this and grow and expand the network as well. So check out some of the options over at patreon.com/fromsuperheroes. That is patreon.com/fromsuperheroes. And now let's go in for the close. Let's ask the final question of what would you change? Diana, what would you change about this movie?
You won't like my change.
Oh, shit.
But I'm doing it anyway because it's my change.
No. No. If I don't like it, you can't do it. No.
Yes, I can. I'm a strong, independent woman.
You don't need no man.
Don't need no man to tell me what to do co-hosting but you sincerely won't like it, and I've accepted that already. But here is my change. My change is because I really like the fact that I think this movie is about Lupita Nyong'o reconnecting with humanity and not wanting to just be alone when she died, which is apparently what you think it's about. Valid, but not my interpretation. So I would actually like her journey to actually like kind of go further. I would really like it if in the beginning she kind of had accepted her fate and had no goals and like didn't want pizza, and her nurse friend was like, we'll get pizza after the show, because right now she's the one pushing for pizza. And she does seem to like have goals even before the apocalypse hit. She wants the pizza already. So I think it would be more interesting if she was just going to stay at the hospice and not go out. And like her nurse friend reached out to her and was like, we'll get pizza, I promise, after the thing. Like, and he brings it up and entices her with pizza. And then when he dies, it's more of a like, it's still a great reason to go get pizza, like in his memory and for my dad and for me. I think it like ties in a little bit better if it's not just the thing she singularly wanted the whole time, for my interpretation of the movie, which is that like, I think she wants a sense of community and connection, or at least maybe she doesn't know that she wants that, but she does like that she gets that. So yeah, I think her not wanting the pizza and having it offered is more interesting to me. And then like going on that quest for her and because the nurse guy will know that like she likes that pizza and will know about this memory, but so we'll entice her with that. And then when he dies in like that cool way he does, then she'll be like, definitely time for pizza now. And Joseph Quinn joins her. And it's just more of a community event, because that's what I think pizza is. I think pizza is you all sit around and you have a slice and you feel not alone. Because I think it's not I think you'd like want a hot dog if it was supposed to be like, I want to be alone. Or some kind of more singular food.
Sure.
So that's my change. It's very small. I really like this movie. I know we dunked on it a little, but I actually think this is a really beautiful story. It's really tense. It's really fun. So yeah, those are my changes.
I actually like that. I like that. While I disagreed with you on the film as it was presented, the change that you were describing makes it clearer that it is about that connection.
That's what I want.
The film as it is and as it's presented, I don't feel that it's about that connection. I feel like it is about saying goodbye. And I think that that's still beautiful, and I really respect that about the film. I think it's about saying goodbye, and that's lovely. But what you're describing gets me more on board, and I think more clearly articulates that it is about finding a connection before you go, which is also a beautiful and meaningful story. It just wasn't how I felt as it was. But as you're describing it, that's clearer, and I would be more on board for that. I think that that's an equally lovely story.
Oh, thank you. Yes, and that is what I'm going for. Yeah, I think she is ready to die, and I completely agree. But I think she maybe is even ready to die alone. I think through the course of this movie, she realizes she doesn't want to die alone. Or I guess maybe she does because she does die alone. But she does choose to die alone at the end. But if you're someone with cancer in an apocalypse movie, you're gonna have to do the sacrifice play. That's just a rule. That's just how it's gonna be. But Andrew, what would you change? You're more on board than I thought. Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's lovely. Thank you for bringing wonderful ideas. My change is that the character of Eric and Ruben are just the same character, which is the business guy she meets halfway through the movie and the nurse who is in the first half of the movie. They should just be the same character. I don't care which one of them plays it. I think that they're both wonderful performers.
No, they're both really good.
They are both really good performers who have kind of a different take on what it would be, but I think either one of them would be equally talented in that role, either Joseph Quinn or Alex Wolff. I think they should be the same character. And even like the businessman or like the guy in business school, it's like he does a magic trick and a performance at the end and is taking care of her. And I'm like, that seems like something that a nurse who is into the arts and theater would do. So other than the line, I'm in business school, every other piece of writing about this guy, it really is the writing of a nurse who is interested in the arts, which is what the guy at the beginning of the movie was. Mm-hmm. So I think it should be the two of them going on that journey the entire time. And I think that there is something about a hospice nurse seeing his patient through that journey, whether she wants him there or not. Because then I think it also works with both interpretations of, she learns to enjoy having him there, or she wants to go on this journey alone and he refuses to let her go alone. That also feels like something that a hospice worker would do, to be like, I understand that you want to be alone when you die, but I am going to be there for you. It is my job to make sure that you are seen through that. And I think then that makes way more sense for why someone is there with her, and it still leaves it open to interpretation as to whether or not that's a good thing, but it would be at least intrinsically aligned with the character. So I think it should be the same person beginning to end. I don't know why, because even his death doesn't seem to like be the motivation of why she let someone new in her life to be like, oh, I feel bad I was mean to him before, or like he really was my friend. It's just like, all right, there's a guy in a suit here now, that'll do in my last moments. So it should be the same person, beginning to end, fuse these characters into one character.
I can get behind that because I like this change. It makes more sense thematically. It makes a better through line. It also gets rid of magical cat. Then the cat's just a cat.
Then it's just a cute cat.
Then it's just a cute cat who doesn't have to do a meet cute in the middle of a movie through its magical cat powers.
Yeah.
And the cat would even have a reason to go if they get separated. He even has a reason to go find if it's the nurse, because the cat knows the nurse.
Yes.
The cat would be like, Lupita's over here.
We have a relationship. I know that
hey,
you're the
it's you.
Yeah. To be like, I am a therapy cat. I know that you are the one who helps her.
Yeah. She's sick.
Yeah. Come, person who helps her.
That would actually be great if they got separated and the cat found them, because that would make sense.
Yes, it would.
Then that would make sense.
That would make sense then.
If there was a separation and a reunion.
Yeah. Very strange stuff here.
Great change. Great change.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We have done it. That is going to do it for this week for A Quiet Place Part 1. Next week, we are going to be back, and we're kind of revving up towards the release of Deadpool and Wolverine. We are doing some Ryan Reynolds action. Next week, we're going to do The Hitman's Bodyguard.
Woo! Samuel Jackson's also there.
He's also there.
It's a fun movie.
So we'll be talking about that next week on the podcast. In the meantime, if you want to get a hold of us, you can find me on Instagram and most social media. I am at Ivimey, Ivimey.
You can find me on Instagram at Pics of Diana, or you can find me on Tumblr at Words of Diana. I'm going to say Tumblr's fun. Everyone should be there.
It is fun.
I'm there.
It is fun. It's better than a lot of the other options.
It's the only one that makes me happy.
Boom. That's an endorsement. I love to hear that. And if you want to find both of us, you can find us most places at From Superheroes. And you can check out all of the podcasts and everything we create at FromSuperheroes.com. And we'll talk to you all next week.
We will. Also, From Superheroes has a Tumblr, so just saying.
Bye.
Bye.